Welcome. This is DA Sports. I'm your host, DASASIN. Thank you. This is episode number 50. Today we have a couple of things to get into. We are going to get into the top 5 best receiver duos in the NFL as of today. Now, this is brought on by Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins both being able to re-sign brand new deals with the Cincinnati Bengals. So that brought me into the idea of who are the actual best 5 duos in the NFL right now. And then, of course, we're going to finish this episode with my top 5 and worst 5 NBA rankings as of Tuesday, March 18th. So let's get into it. Okay, so to start, like I mentioned in the intro, Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins both got brand new deals with the Cincinnati Bengals. It was a complete shock considering the history of the Bengals. They have known to not pay players essentially their entire existence as a franchise. So not only are they following up from signing a huge deal with Joe Burrow, now they follow up this year and re-sign their best offensive weapon in Ja'Marr Chase and their second best receiver in T. Higgins, which a lot of people, including myself, thought would never happen. I thought for sure, even after they gave him the franchise tag, that eventually it was just going to lead to him being traded, or maybe he was on the team for just this year and then end up somewhere else afterwards. So the fact that the Bengals actually invested in keeping them both on as weapons for Joe Burrow, I'm surprisingly shocked, but good for them. If you're a Bengals fan, I'm sure you are very excited. But that brought me to the idea of who are the actual 5 best duos in the NFL right now. So, without further ado, I'm going to give you my top 5 best receiver duos in the league right now, starting from 5 to 1. So, to start off at 5, I got to go with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Now, a couple years ago, this tandem could have been argued as being number 1, considering the amount of yardage that they both put up, considering that before Tyreek Hill got hurt that year, he was on track to end up with over 2,000 yards receiving. So it's not really a shot to them that they've now at number 5. It's more so just a product of them not having as great of a season last year as they did in the previous years. And some of the other duos are newly formed or, have more production in that same time frame. So, but they're still definitely, to me, a top 5 duo. Obviously, they have more speed than any other duo in the league, with both of them being able to run 4.3 or lower. There's no other team that can bolster that. So, in terms of running past you, they definitely have that ability. They're also very good with the yak yardage. So definitely still top 5. But for me right now, I have to leave them at the number 5 spot. Now coming in at number 4, I got to go with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. Now, A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith are recently crowned Super Bowl champions, and their effectiveness this year really paid off. It was a major factor in their playoff run and in the Super Bowl, being able to stretch the defense even when the running game wasn't really super effective. Their dynamic duo is great. They both run routes really well. Obviously, A.J. Brown is a physical specimen who can go up and snatch balls from anyone. And then you have Smith, who can get open and create separation. Even though he's a slender in size, he still he still finds a way to not take any huge hits and put himself in like a damaging spot. So together they definitely make a dynamic duo, and they've established themselves. They also got new deals last year, so they've established themselves as a duo that's going to be around for a while. So it's very possible that they could rise up on this list, but for right now, I have them at the 4th best duo in the league. Now coming in at number 3, I got to go with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Now, admittedly, a big part of this is Justin Jefferson, to me, is the best receiver in the entire league. So he does add some weight to the duo, but I think a lot of people actually sleep on Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison does a great job at creating separation, a great job at getting open and running routes. And when Jefferson was hurt, Jordan Addison was a legit number one receiver. And even though everybody knew he was the number one receiver, he still had productivity. And he had productivity behind quarterbacks that aren't great. I mean, I could say at best, they've been thrown, their quarterback play has been above average, between Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold. Like, Sam Darnold statistically had a great year last year, but it's still Sam Darnold and Kirk Cousins. Nobody's projecting that they are top 5 or even top 10 quarterbacks, really. So for them both to be able to be productive regardless of the quarterback play, it shows that they're definitely a dynamic duo, but I can't move them above 3 at this very moment. Now coming in at number 2, which might surprise some people because this duo hasn't even played together yet, I am going with the Los Angeles Rams with Puka Nacua and Davante Adams. Now, these two are probably the first ones out of the mix where both receivers could be argued to be the number one. Now, a lot of people will say, well, Puka's the number one because he's already been established on the team and he's had success and he's younger, so you feel like, oh, he, was a little more spry. But I think people are really sleeping on Davante Adams. Like, yes, he unfortunately has been playing for some sorry teams. Last year he's with the Jets. Before that, he was at the Raiders. So he's been in organizations that have been terrible, that didn't have, great quarterback play or, just structure overall. But he's still been productive. If you watch any game with Davante Adams, he still creates separation at the line. He still creates separation at the top of his routes. He still has great hands and makes catches, has a huge catch radius, and he still has decent speed too. So, yes, I would say Puka's more of the bowling ball type receiver where he's going to catch a pass in the middle of a crowd and then run some people over afterwards. But both of these receivers are still number one receivers to me. So the fact that they were able to get them paired means that they're definitely going to be a dynamic duo. And I think that they don't share the same space on the field. So I think they'll be able to work well off of each other and create openings for one another. I think Davante Adams' cerebral approach to route running will also rub off on Puka and elevate his game to another level to where, maybe he's challenging that top tier receiver group for being one of the best receivers in the entire league. So for me, even though they haven't played together yet, I'm putting this duo at number 2 with Puka Nacua and Davante Adams. But that leaves one spot, and it's the number 1 spot, and it has to go to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Now, Jamar Chase is arguably the best receiver in the league. To me, he's number 2 right now. But T. Higgins is another one of those number 2s that legitimately is a number 1. There are several teams where T. Higgins was on that team, he would be the number 1 receiver. So just like the previous duo that I mentioned, this group is 1 and 2, but they're really like 1A and 1B. Now, I do think that Chase is better than T. Higgins, but still the point is that their number 2 options is legit. And they've proven it time after time. Chase has been injured. Higgins has still been successful. Higgins been injured. Chase still successful. So both of them can get their own. Both of them run great routes. Both of them have great hands. Both of them are explosive. And they make for a very impressive duo, a very impressive tandem that essentially at this point is going to be the backbone of the Bengals team for at least the next 3 years. With all the money they spent on quarterback and their top 2 receivers, it means they're going to have less money to spend on defense. And considering how terrible their defense was last year, I don't expect it to get any better when they're losing their best defensive player and they just re-signed their offensive firepower. So look for a lot of high-scoring games for the Bengals next season, and this duo being very productive because they're going to need to be productive just to stay in games. All right, now to finish off this week's episode, we got to get into my top 5 and worst 5 NBA rankings as of Tuesday, March 18th. Now, this means that all the games that were played on Tuesday, March 18th are included with the records and the figuring out which team is going to place where. So any games that are starting today on Wednesday are not going to be included. So that's why I use March 18th, because that is the final day of games being considered for this ranking. So let's hop right into it. So starting off at number 1, I got to go with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Yes, I'm a Thunder fan. No, this is not biased. I originally would have had OKC at 2, but the number 2 team did just lose 2 games in a row. So I have to bring OKC back up to number 1. Their record right now is 56-12. To me, they also have who should be the MVP of the season in SGA. They are 9-1 in their last 10 games, which is the best record of any team in the league in the last 10 games. They've also been able to win a lot of good games against top-tier competition. They're not just beating up on bottom-tier teams, including recently their biggest win was against the Boston Celtics. Now, speaking of the Boston Celtics, when it comes to the top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference in this season, OKC is 5-1. They're 2-0 against the Celtics. They're 2-0 against the Knicks. They're 1-1 against the Cavs. So that lets you know right there just how great of a season they've had so far, because it's not just like they're taking advantage of mismatches against lower ranked teams. They're beating top tier teams, and they're beating them consistently. And this is why they've been a top 3 seed essentially the entire season in terms of my overall rankings. And they look like they are the team that nobody wants to face come playoff time, and they deserve to be in this number 1 spot as of right now. Now at number 2, I still got to stick with the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers are also 56-12. They are 8-2 in their last 10, and that's mainly because they just lost 2 games in a row. Before that 2 games in a row, though, they had just set a franchise record of winning 16 straight games. Now that's amazing, especially considering that whenever people think of the Cavs, they think of LeBron James. So to think of this team that they have together now having a longer winning streak than any of the teams that LeBron James played on is definitely a testament to how well this team has been playing and what they've been able to accomplish. So even though they're currently on a 2-game losing streak, I can't drop them any lower than number 2. They still are tied for the best record in the league and still have been very productive overall. Now coming in at number 3, I got to stick with the Boston Celtics. The Celtics right now are 50-19. They are also 8-2 in their last 10 games, and they've been pretty much a model of consistency. I think what we're seeing from Boston now is pretty much what people expected to see from Boston throughout the entire season. Obviously, they're the reigning defending NBA champs right now, and they look like, even though they don't have the best record in the East, I would still say most people will probably lean towards them being able to beat Cleveland in a 7-game series. So they're in a great position to kind of carry on and try to go back-to-back this year in the playoffs. Now, in terms of the month of March, they've been playing really well. They've only lost 1 game in the month of March, and that 1 game was to OKC, who I mentioned already because they're the number 1 ranked team right now. So that just goes to show that they are able to get a lot of good wins. They are being very productive and still maintaining at the top of the list despite losing some games to OKC. Now bringing it in at number 4, I'm going to go with the Denver Nuggets. Now the Denver Nuggets are currently 44-25. They have had some up and down points, but overall, I feel like in the bigger picture of things, they've been pretty consistent. They recently had a huge win against Golden State where Joker didn't play and Murray didn't play, but they still were able to get the win. I think it's a huge testament to how much depth they have on this team. Russell Westbrook has been playing great in this game against Golden State where they were short-staffed. He did go for a triple-double. He finished with 12 points, 16 assists, and 12 rebounds. He was all over the place, obviously making extra plays with his hustle as he's known to do. And then, in terms of holding the scoring bag in itself, it was Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon went for 38 points in that game. He was hot from three. He was getting in the lane. He got a lot of great passes from Westbrook. Perfect dimes for dunks. Perfect wraparound passes for easy layups. Perfect pick and pop plays. Just Aaron Gordon looked like prime Aaron Gordon and was just able to do it all around the basketball court. He's actually improved his three-point shooting this year more than any previous year. So him adding that to his bag has just been tremendous. So you think about those two being productive and then getting back their two focal point superstars on their team. They're definitely a team that people are not looking forward to playing in a 7-game series as they try to get back to the finals after missing it last year. And then bringing in the top 5 at number 5, I got to go with the team that I mentioned they beat. That is the Golden State Warriors. Now, for me, I think this might be the first time I've had the Warriors ranked in the top 5 all season, but I do think that they deserve it. Right now, they are 40-29. They are also another team that is 8-2 in their last 10 games, and they've definitely been clicking ever since they made the trade for Jimmy Butler. A lot of people had a lot of skepticism around the trade, not really seeing how Jimmy Butler would fit in with their style of offense. Jimmy Butler is more of a mid-range shooter, and Golden State is known for being a, 3 and D or layups type of team. They take on that whole analytic perspective of either shoot threes or get all the way to the basket. And Jimmy Butler's game is not really that, but they've found a way to really mix it together. Their skill sets have meshed well together. They've playing with a lot of hunger and desire and getting a lot of wins and just notching them up one after the other. So definitely great for him. Jimmy Butler has looked good as a Golden State Warrior. His current averages before this most recent loss, they were on a 7-game winning streak. And during that 7-game winning streak, Jimmy Butler was averaging 16, 6, 5, and 1. So that's 16 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, and 1 steal per game over that 7-game stretch. So it's definitely like, a utility knife, being able to do a little bit of everything to help this team. And I think he's really added another layer of toughness to his team that I really think is going to help them come playoff time. Now to get into the worst 5, we got to start off with the most disappointing team in the entire league this season. It's got to be the Philadelphia 76ers, bringing it in at number 26. The 76ers are currently 23-45. And this doesn't look like it's going to get any better anytime soon. They just announced a couple of days ago that Paul George has been shut down for the rest of the season with his injury, and they're trying to recover. I believe he took a couple shots and has been playing through pain, but they just at this point realized like there's no point in to keep going, and they shut him down, and he's going to be done for the rest of the season. As I mentioned, this is a huge disappointment for 76ers fans. With everything they did in the offseason and the way Joel Embiid looked in the offseason in the Olympics, people were really expecting Philadelphia to be a huge contributor in the East and knocking on the door for one of those top 2 seeds. And in this case, they didn't even make it to the playoffs. They didn't even make it to the play-in. It was just terrible. So, a huge disappointment for Philadelphia. This is even worse to me than the time period where, they were going through the process and trying to tank for certain players. This is just having a lot of talent and being bad. So a lot of it, yes, has to do with injuries and stuff like that, but they put the team together. They got Paul George. They signed him to this big contract. And Paul George, I can't recall the last time he played, 75 games in a season. So they kind of did it to themselves. And Joel Embiid played during the Olympics and then couldn't play the beginning of the season. So again, they did it to themselves, but terrible for the fans. They definitely deserve to be at 26 right now. Now next at 27, I got to be honest, this is shocking. This team has been at the very bottom for almost the entire season. And I thought for sure they would probably stay there. But I can't keep them there. Just got to be unbiased. And that is the Washington Wizards. That's right. The Washington Wizards have rose up from the 30th spot all the way to number 27. They are currently 15 and 52. So they still have the second worst record in the entire league. But, everything changes, and it's based on how they've been playing recently. They have won 5 out of their last 10 games. And even some of the games that they've lost, they've played pretty well. So I got to give credit where credit is due. Washington has been on the rise. Do I think they'll make it completely out of this bottom 5? No. But, hey, a rise is a rise. When everybody else is going down, if you're going up, it's still progress. And that's what's going on in Washington right now. So they deserve to be in the 27th spot. Now coming in at number 28, have to go with the Charlotte Hornets. Now Charlotte is currently 17 and 51. They've been at the bottom pretty much this entire season. Nothing that they do is really surprising. The thing with Charlotte that's kind of crazy though is that when they lose terribly. I kind of mentioned this in the last top 5 and bottom 5 where they had a stretch of losses where they had a huge margin of victory. Well, they're back to that again because in their last 2 games, they lost their last 2 games. The last 2 games they lost by 35 and 32. That's just pathetic. Listen, yes, there is a separation in talent between teams at the top and teams at the bottom. But they're all NBA players. You should not be losing by 30-plus points consistently. Because this is not like just a one-off trend, like, they had 2 bad games in a row. No, as I mentioned before, the last ranking, they had lost 3 games, I believe, 3 or 4 games by the same margin or more. So this is basically a trend. This is who they are. When they lose bad. They struggle to score, and it shows. And that's why they're at the 28th spot. Now, next coming in at number 29, I got to go with the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, the Pelicans are 18 and 51. This one is probably the biggest miss on the season that I've had in terms of preseason prediction versus where they actually finish. Yes, I understand that they made a trade and they got rid of Brandon Ingram and Zion's been hurt for majority of the year, but we see what kind of talent they have. Zion has shown games where he just looks dominant, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is the person they invested in. It makes sense, right? They should be better, but they're just not. They're 2-8 in their last 10 games, and even in the games where they play tough, they just don't. They're just missing that glue to bring it all home and win critical games. So this season obviously is a waste. I believe they've already been officially eliminated from playoff contention. No chance of even getting to the bottom of the play-in. So they're looking forward to next season. I mean, me personally, maybe you sit Zion, but in his case, because a lot of his injury stuff people have correlated to his weight and his conditioning. So him playing might just be a part of him staying in condition to get ready for next season. But nonetheless, regardless, they definitely deserve to be in the 29 spot. But thankfully, they are not dead last. Bringing in the rear at number 30, I have to go with the Utah Jazz. Now, the Utah Jazz currently have the worst record in the league. They are currently 15 and 54, and they're on a 10-game losing streak. Ugh. Now, there's a lot of speculation that they've been sitting players on purpose, trying to tank to get a better odds in the draft, in the lottery. We'll see if it pays out. I don't think the team with the worst record has ended up with the number one pick in several years. So really tanking for that extra couple of percentage points doesn't really seem worth it. But hey, do what you got to do, I guess. But Utah, yeah, they just look terribly. They don't look like they're even trying to win. And even if they are trying, it doesn't look like they can beat anybody other than maybe another bottom 5 team occasionally. So, yeah, like I said, they've lost 10 in a row, and they deserve to drop all the way to the bottom. So that's where they are with this week's ranking. Well, that wraps it up for this ranking. That also wraps it up for this episode. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Please make sure you like and subscribe and share wherever possible. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Peace.